Hi, how's everyone doing? Hope you're having a good day. If not, then why don't you make it a good day? I know, easier said than done. Well, today I wanted to continue on with creating a noble house. That's what I'm doing with this kind of second set of videos. Because why not? Or in other words, in more layman terms, is self-improvement. But I wanted to have fun with it, so it's going to be a noble house. Because why not? Go big or go home, you know. In the last video, we talked about how important sleep was. And I found Matthew Walker, who is a professor who's been doing it for 20 years, about investigating into sleep. And he just had all of these horrible things that happen whenever you don't get 7 to 9 hours of sleep. So had me sold on 8 hours. And then another problem that I have is getting injured whenever I'm working out. Especially more of an issue as I get older. But first, there were some things that we could do to help with sleeping. One was to turn the temperature down. Two was to turn off the lights at a certain time. And to have blackout curtains. So I wanted to share some of this progress, some of these things that I'm doing. I bought a couple of simple little curtain rods because I do not care about anything stylish and neat or anything. But one of the things that I did like, even though that these were cheap, was that they go straight and then they wrap into the wall. So the curtain will come all the way. If it was just a rod that went straight out, then there would be this gap right here where light could escape. So even though this one was cheaper, this one was definitely the one that I was wanting to get because the purpose was to eliminate as much light as possible. And it starts going up in price pretty quick. I bought these blackout curtains. They go all the way to the floor. These are 84 inches, so that's about 7 feet, I believe. And I don't want that because my window back there in the bedrooms, there's 3 of them, but they're only about half the size, less than half the size or the length of the wall right there. And I didn't want it to go all the way down to the floor because I didn't want to have to fight with it with a vacuum cleaner. I didn't want to kick at it or anything like that, but the easy solution is I'm just going to take it halfway and then pin the other half on top. So then that way you have double the layering, so twice as much material to block the light. Because finding one that was half that, it was 41 inches. I couldn't find one that was 41 inches. The majority of them that were even close, I think, started around 54 inches, and there weren't a lot of those, and then it was 63 inches. So I was like, well, you know, I move around, and so I don't know how much longer I'll be staying at this place. But I decided that, you know what, maybe I will move into a place where it will have larger windows, and then this will still work. It also has 2 of them, and that's a big thing to look for. These things are called panels. So this one has 2 panels. This is a panel, and then that is a panel. But there's just as many of these stupid things where it's just 1 panel. It'll show 2 curtains right there, but you're only buying 1. So just something to keep out. And then also, these were just not too much more expensive, but they were a little bit more. And that's because these were energy efficient as well. So not only do they help with keeping the light out, but it also helps with the heating and cooling. There were some of them that were definitely of thinner material. I also didn't need any that were just too terribly thick though, because there were a few others that were real thick. But I'm not like, I don't have a street light right outside my window. I don't have anything just blasting this large amounts of light into my window. So there is some though. And so I opted for this. There weren't a lot of color choices. I don't green. It's going to be fine. I have 3 windows, but I only bought for 2, and it's just because it's the 2 windows are the windows that have 2 things that are going for them. That is where the most light is coming in, and then my bed is this way, so it comes down onto my bed, and then the 3rd window is over here, and it goes with my bed, so it would be. It's hard. It's hard for that light to get on my bed because the light's going this way, but my bed's over here too. So I decided that if it was really still bothering that much, I mean, I can always go back and get another one. But I just wanted to share that with, if you were interested in doing this, make sure if you need 1 or 2 panels, which also means the width of the window. My window width was 41 inches. I could not hardly find, there was like 2, I think, that I found that were 41 inches all the way. Because in a way, I was thinking maybe it would be better to have just 1 panel and it was all the way, so then that way I wouldn't have like this separation in the middle. And I just couldn't find it. I didn't like it at all. There were a lot that were like this. And again, same kind of thing that if I were to ever move, or I should say when I move, that if the windows are larger, this will cover both. So, and then just folding it on up, I can also fold it up to crisscross, where this one can cross over there, and this one I can fold it up and cross it on that way to really help if that's bothering me with that. Something that I've learned as I've gotten older is that with so many things, you just have to kind of problem solve for yourself and think outside of the box. Even a little bit helps, and that's what I did with this, and that's why this is going to work just fine. Doesn't cost too much though, really. I mean, $35, And so with stretching, this is important to me because I've been somewhat physically active my entire life. I ran cross country in high school. I was a 19 Delta Cavalry Scout afterwards whenever I joined the Army. And I've got a full set of weights here in one of the rooms here. I've got over 300 pounds. It's Olympic size weight. I have a really good dumbbell set. It's kind of like, it's an adjustable kind, but it can go up to 90 pounds or something like that. They come and you can add to it. It's really great. It's so quick to just transfer to different weight settings that you want. But I'm having issues. One is that on my arm right here, I have a pain whenever I twist. I have another pain in my shoulder right here. That'll happen whenever I run. And also now that if I eat too much, I'll have a real strong pain in my arm right here too. So if I were to ever gain that 50 pounds back again, it would have to be a slow process. It's definitely something I couldn't do too terribly fast. But I'm fighting against that. So with my weight loss, one of the things that I did, which is opposite of what people will tell you don't get on that scale all the time, and the answer is no. There was a study done in Colorado where they said that people can lose weight all the time, but they have a hard time actually keeping it off. So they wanted to know. You had to have proof. I didn't partake in it, but I found about it later. It was from the Joe Rogan podcast. He had Dr. Rhonda Patrick on there. And she was talking about this, that they wanted to know from people who had lost 30 or more pounds and had kept it off for a year or more. And they wanted to find anything that was common between these people. And one of them was that they got on the scale all the time. And it was like, well, that's exactly what I did. And I did it all the time because my appetite lies to me and tells me that I'm hungry all the time. But whenever I go and get on that scale, that does it. That tells me the truth. And every single time I get on it, I always hear the same thing in my head. You're too fat. I don't care what anybody says. That's what I tell myself, because until I get the results that I want, then that's exactly right. And so this pain is coming from benching. I was working back up on the weights a little bit. I was able to do 225 for a little bit, and then this happened and it took me out. And then I had runner's knee, where I was running about 26 miles a week, and then that just kind of came out of nowhere. And I just didn't think it was anything. And what was weird was that I could go and run next time for about a mile, have no problems. And then whenever I got into the second mile, it's like, oh crap, there's that same pain again on the outside of my leg, just below the kneecap again. And it took like over a year to get over it. And I'm just now building back up to it again. I'm around 20 miles a week. And one of the things that I've never looked into is stretching. And just one of the things, well, the website that I want is that I'll be building is going to deal with people being scientists, and we will just discover these things for ourselves. So I want you to keep that in mind as we watch these videos. And I'll have links in the description below for all these videos, so if you want to watch them all the way through, go ahead and knock yourself out. But before we get started, go ahead and like and subscribe and become a member. I've got Patreon and Subscribestar. That would help me out quite a bit, because as I always say, I'm not here to change your mind. So if you're doing some kind of different exercising, and that's fine for you, go ahead. I'm just trying to show, in this case, not so much, I guess it is still lies. It's unintentional lies, but they're there. And I don't like any of that stuff at all. And so part of the problem is that I really like this guy right here. This video is called The Worst Stretches for Low Back Pain and What to Do Instead, featuring Dr. Stuart McGill. I don't know Dr. Stuart McGill, and I don't ever like it whenever I see something like this. And it's whenever it's a fitness spokesperson of some kind who's not fit. It's like this fat guy, it's like I don't understand what he's doing. That he can't even manage to take a few pounds off, I don't know. Take it with a grain of salt, though. I'm not an expert with this, and maybe he really does know what he was doing. Maybe back in the day he was really good with all of this, and just getting older, I mean, that could definitely be a thing. I find it harder myself. But he has these stretches, and he's got these stretches. Oh, and his name is Jeremy Ether. I think that's how you say it, Ethier. And he talks about how there are 4 stretches that people do that are not good for you. And I have done all of these countless times. One of them is where you lay down on your back, and then you grab the bottom portions of your legs, and you pull your legs into your chest, bringing your knees as close as you can to your chest. And then another one is the same one where you're laying down. You have your legs straight, and then you bring one leg at a time up to your chest. I've done that one plenty. Another one is where you lay down and you keep both your shoulders on the ground, but then you take and you rotate one leg out, and this leg is at a 45 degree from his body right there. And if you can make contact with the ground, that's fine. And then the good old-fashioned toe touchers right there. And that these all supposedly do temporary reliefs of pain when you do these stretches, but then the pain comes back even longer. And then he talks to this guy, and it's like, one of the problems is that I have no idea who this guy is. I've never heard from him before. There's nothing on here to validate his claims or anything. Why can't we do these things? Why can't we do these stretches and see if they hurt or not? The stretches that he recommends too. So one of them is, I forgot what, the cat camel. This is another problem too, is that people go around and they give these things different names. I used to do P90X with Tony Horton, who did the same kind of thing, and it was not called the cat camel. I forgot what he called it, but it was not that. But it's just one where you have your hands below your elbows and you have your knees below your waist, maybe a little bit of a spacing between your knees, and then you bend your midsection forward so you get a little bit of curve in your spine, and then you go in the other direction where you put your back up really high. And the doctor talks about how that works the spine kind of loose. There's some stuff in there and it just kind of loosens it up, and you only need to do it 6 or 7 times. Talks about how sitting in a chair too, because you're more forward than what you would normally be, especially compared to standing, and that tightens you up and it puts pressure on your back. And then he gives his own techniques into stretching, and one of them is to lunge forward, which he says people think that that's stretching kind of their back, and it really doesn't, but you kind of feel it, but it's a different muscle. But all you have to do is just stick your hand straight up and kind of go in the opposite direction. So if my right hand is going up, then I want to stretch left as I'm in a lunge position, and that opens up your muscles here to be stretched and along in the back right there. And this is of big interest to me because whenever I was in the Army, I've got a fractured lower bray and I have a fractured disc and I have a slipped disc and a fractured lower vertebrae. That's what I have. And whenever that nerve in there gets pinched, it's horrendous. It's a big reason why I lost that weight too, because since I've lost 50 pounds, I haven't had it happen. It gets real tender and sore sometimes whenever I'm working out, if I'm trying to do too much too fast. But before, I remember I just raised my hand one day to grab something, and that's all it took, and I was out for a few days. But what I like about Jeremy here is that he talks about what the research shows.
Their pain. But the truth is, many of these stretches are just short-term fixes that actually end up doing more harm than good, and are the opposite of what people should be doing to adapt changes that permanently eliminate their back pain. For example, common stretches like toe touches, pulling your knees to your chest, and other similar stretches, they trigger what's called a stretch reflex, which is a neurological phenomenon that temporarily reduces pain sensitivity. Meaning that after you perform these stretches, you'll often experience about 15 to 20 minutes of pain relief, which many would offer.
Did I not go back?
One of the first solutions people struggling with back pain see.
So I was watching several videos, and I guess in that video he wasn't referencing anything because he had a doctor there. But with his videos, usually he has this. So here it says, research note, the relationship of, I cannot say that, major muscle size with bench press and bench press throw performances. And he does this constantly where he's citing other papers, and he puts them up there on the screen for you to look at if you wanted to. But here's an example.
In fact, when we look at recent papers that track an individual's bench press strength and chest growth over time, we see a strong positive correlation between them, meaning that a bigger bench does seem to lead to a bigger chest. But here's the catch. If we look at the numbers a little more closely, we can actually see a few instances where despite some subjects being able to bench significantly more weight than another subject, they didn't seem to have any extra chest growth to show for it. And similarly, other instances where two individuals with the same bench press strength experienced a whopping 30% difference in the resulting growth of their chest. Just meaning that some individuals just don't seem to respond as well as others do when it comes to growing their chest with the bench press. And believe me.
Yeah, so I'm showing you this because I really like him because he's not talking about just whatever kind of floats his boat at the moment. He's citing research papers. Now, you can argue whether or not if the research papers are any good, but why can't we do this ourselves? It's like, well, we can. In order to be able to build a website based off of facts and evidence, it means turning people into scientists. So if you are interested in working out and you've been having issues, one of the problems that I have found, and I'm sure that you have too, is that who do I trust? And so while Jeremy has all of these really good videos about exercising and they're based in facts with research to a point, it's like, well, how do we know the research? Because you keep going back. It's like, okay, well, it's this doctor, and then it's these research papers, and it's these researchers, and then it's those people that were being studied upon. It just seems like there's another layer, another layer, another layer, another layer. And one of the ways that you can get to dealing with that better is by having a larger and larger sample size. The people who really lie and cheat about this stuff, yeah, they're out there, but it's really that much. It's just like all these lunatics that are on Twitter. They represent like this much of the population. And then, even if you do find somebody, it's not like he's the only one. So this chick, for example, I've never seen her before, but I just wanted to show some diversity with this stuff. She is Caroline Gervin. I'm assuming that's her name of the YouTube channel. This video is a 30-minute full body kettlebell workout supersets and 1.6 million views. And I've heard about how kettlebells are more about better ranges of motion, which would help with injury prevention, because whenever you're doing something like a bench press, you're just kind of just going straight out and back down. But whenever you're doing the kettlebell, you swing it out and you get up really high, or whatever position that is, and you start off real low and you get real high. And so it works the whole thing. And whenever you look at this chick, it's like, yep, this chick is just, and this is what she does constantly. It's just workout after workout with kettlebells. And then we have, I don't know this guy either, but I've watched quite a bit about calisthenics, and this is how to do it at home for beginners with no equipment. And that's their big thing too, is you don't have to go and get a whole bunch of weights and start lifting, and it's just your body weight. And I'm always skeptical of it, because in the Army, we did calisthenics all the time. And you know who was just jacked and ripped? Nobody. And I know that somebody would come back and say, well, because your diet sucked. And it's like, well, yeah, maybe in the Army it was, because they didn't give a damn about your diet. That they just threw everything in front of your face. I remember when we were in Bosnia, they started stacking up all of these little white powdered donuts. You go to the convenience store and they've got these little packets of white donuts. That's what they were. And just all over on these tables. And it's like, I stuffed my face with those. But it was okay. I mean, I was young. We were deployed to Bosnia. We were busting our butt all the time. I could eat those things like mad. Now it's like, I get one little pack. It's like, yeah, I got to go run for an hour or something like that. So, and it sucks because I still love the hell out of those damn donuts. But we can help figure this stuff out. How many exercise YouTube channels are out there, and how many people do what these YouTubers say? I'm sure there's just a ton of them. Well, imagine if all of these YouTubers and their students were all tracking their progress. How much better would it be for us if we were to be able to figure out, well, no, for your goals, you really want to do weightlifting. Well, for what it is that you want, yeah, for weightlifting, and so like maybe you want to go play football. But for you, you're looking to do some kind of, what's that? It's kind of new. It's that all-in-one sports kind of thing. Let me look up. Or maybe you're interested in doing CrossFit. So that's that's going to involve a bunch of different muscle groups, and so maybe kettlebell training would be something more in line for you. Or perhaps you're really not interested in doing anything, you're no sports, and you don't want to spend a lot of money, but you do want to have a good physique, you want to be in good health, so perhaps it's calisthenics. It's like, well, what are your goals? What are you trying to do? Okay, well, these sets of exercises are going to work best for you. These exercises will work better for this person, and then these exercises for this other person over here. It just depends, but it's so hard to know because it's just a modge-podge of BS. I want to know what really is happening with bench pressing. Just bench pressing. And then with curls, dips, pull-ups, sit-ups, crunchies, whatever. And then people like this, they can go through and they can review it all, and they can say, well, if you put all of these together, you should have phenomenal results. And then they could also be looked at and criticized about, okay, well, if you're a football player, basketball player, if you're running or whatever it is that you're doing, we're also going to look at these people who put these programs together, and we're going to test them to see which one's got which one's right, which one's really best, because it drives me up the wall. There's just countless YouTube channels out there of people who are doing this stuff, and it's like, really, whenever it comes down to it, how do I verify this guy in knowing that he really knows what he's doing? As far as I know, the thing that he might really have going well for him is his diet. She looks fantastic, but is it really from kettlebell training? Maybe she was an athlete before she started doing this, and that got her in phenomenal shape, and she's just been able to maintain it. But doing kettlebell training is not what you want to do if you want to get into shape, but it's great for maintaining it. And the same thing with Jeremy. Who the hell is he really? Well, it would be easier if we had a website where we had all this information together at one place, and it had a great verification system that was obvious. It was something that we would know and understand and trust and be able to say, oh, okay, no, this is right. Jeremy is doing it right. I got it. But she might be full of it. It's like, this doesn't make sense at all. What she's telling me and what this site is telling me is not the same. And I don't know her from a hole in the wall. The site that I'm going to build, it's going to make anybody who wants to be kind of a scientist, because there's plenty of all of these low-level things, such as with diet and exercising. And it's whoever wants to do it in a way. So you could set up your own if you wanted to do this, you would be able to set up your own SOP, standard operating procedure, in order to get results. You could say, well, I want to know about bench press. So for everybody who's going to be doing this with me, what I'm looking for is they all need to be the same. So I'm looking for men or women. They need to be this age, this height, this body weight, yada, yada, yada. You need to have this kind of a diet. You need to be taking in so many calories. And you could make it up yourself. And then all you would have to do is then find people who are willing to do it. And then they can take pictures or videos or whatever to help document this stuff. And yeah, just whatever you wanted to do. I wanted to go on for 3 weeks or 3 months or 3 years or whatever. It's like, go ahead. That's literally what they do now. Except we're going to update it by using computers and technology so we can have these really great sample sizes and get people involved who really want to be involved. Because how many people are working out right now? How much of a problem would it be to get these people who are already working out to also just take a little bit more time to fill out one of those things? Say, yeah, hey, you know what? I want to know too. I'll be a part of that. So I don't know about stretches because I was looking here again about stretching, and I found videos all over the place about how it's good, it's bad. It's good before you work out. It's bad before you work out. It's good after you work out. It's bad after you work out. I don't know. And my back just hates it. It's like my back wants answers. I want answers. But it's just people out there. I don't think... One of the reasons that I also follow Jeremy is that I don't think he's a bad actor. That doesn't mean that the information that he's giving me is true. But I feel like he is trying and he's not being malicious. And it's just because I got to follow somebody. I can't do this. I cannot look at all of the literature for sleeping and what it takes to have a good night's sleep, all the literature for stretching, all the literature for working out, all the literature for running. I need help. And it can be everyone, whether if they're helping through donations or later whenever the site starts getting up and going and being participants and helping with this stuff, or not at all. It's going to be insanely massive, all the things that are going to go on with this site. I just cannot express that enough. I try not to give too much away. I could talk about it for several days and just kind of scratch on the surface about what all the things that the site will be doing. And so if you would like to actually know what's actually legitimate, what's not, if you're tired of people just flat out lying to you, then give this video a like and a thumbs up, because that's exactly what we're doing here. And I need all the help that I can get. Also got Patreon and Subscribe Star. I hope you've learned something and enjoyed the video, and we'll see you again next time. Bye.